Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Episode 4 already. We're getting after it. We're gonna be talking about something. One of my favorite things I like to do. Biggest game I like to play with myself is budgeting. Kind of going over a little bit of what proper budgeting looks like for you, how it can benefit you, how you can do it. For example, I budget, so I get paid with my job. I get paid every 2 weeks. So I budget 2 weeks at a time, right? Kind of like we talked about previous episodes, that you should be paying your credit card off every time you get paid, not necessarily once a month. You shouldn't get paid every time you get paid. You should go pay off all your credit cards. So kind of helps with never getting behind on that. And then, kind of you can correct stuff quicker if you are paying your stuff quicker. And then stay on top of it, right? So essentially what I do is I'll sit down with my week, and then I will write down on a piece of paper every single thing that I plan to spend. So like I'm going to get a haircut, got to fill up my gas tank twice. I'll go to the store twice because I go once a week. If I have got to go out to dinner, I'll write down dinner on there, and then I'll write down next to it, estimate how much I'm looking at spending at each said thing. And then what I can do is kind of backtrack that, and then I'll see, okay, well, I'll make X amount of dollars this month or this 2 weeks, and I'm going to be spending this amount of money estimated. I'll be saving this month at this amount of money once I pay everything off, right? So the reason for that is a lot of times when you don't have a budget, you will just be spending money, not really keeping too much, keeping up with it too much. So you'll be a lot of times spending too much money, and then not, when payday comes, you don't have any money to save at the end of it, and you're like, where the hell did everything go? Well, that's because, you're going out to eat every day, buying lunch every day. You're not really saying, okay, well, this week I'm gonna cook 3 days, meal prep for 3 days, and the other 4 days I'm going to buy lunch at work, or 2 days, how many days, whatever how many amount of days you're working at work or on the weekend or whatever like that. So it's very easy to let money get away from you if you're not writing it down. I know it kind of seems kind of stupid, or there's apps out there that you can use. I like the old school way of just sitting down, writing out everything. And then what I do is I have a column of everything that I plan to purchase this week or spend my money on, basically my necessities. And then there's another column if one day I'll go get coffee or anything. Well, that's an expense that I didn't plan for, so I'll write that down on the side. So at my 2 weeks when I go to pay my credit card off, I'll sit down and be like, okay, well, I hit all my marks here, or I was under my marks here, so I saved some money. Okay, what did I spend that I didn't plan to? And then what you will eventually start, the habit you'll start building is how to properly say no to things you don't necessarily need. Like if you're going to get coffee every day, right, that's $7 a day. You're going to be spending a ton of money, and you may not even realize it. Yet if you start writing that stuff down after your 2 weeks or 1 week, and you go to review that, you're like, damn, dude, I just spent $40 on coffee. He's like, maybe I should back that up to maybe only once or twice a week, and then I'll be saving 30 or $40, and then I can put that towards something else, So it's always good to write it down. And then, like I said, at the end of my 2 weeks, I'll sit down, review everything that I bought. I can compare it to my bank statement or my credit card statement on my app, and then to what I wrote down, double check myself, and then I'll like, okay, well, I made 4 purchases that I didn't really need to make. Maybe, I like collecting Hot Wheels. Maybe I bought some Hot Wheels, or went and bought some shit at Kroger that I didn't really need, snacks or extra drinks or anything like that, And then I'm like, okay, well, let's start activating a little bit of discipline and backing that up a little bit, because I just spent an extra, $45 on stuff I didn't need this week, and I could have saved that and put it towards my goal. So it's good accountability when you're writing stuff down, because if you go to coffee every day and you get home, you got your receipt, go write it down, and you're budgeting, like, damn, dude, I probably shouldn't be spending $7-12 a day on coffee. This doesn't really feel well. Granted, if you're just going out, oh, I'm just going to get coffee this morning, I'll pay it off automatically, or I won't even look at it, no big deal. All the bills are paid whenever I get paid. you kind of lose track of kind of the amount of money you're spending or you could be saving on things you don't really need. And then the power of saying no is how you can create a great budget and a great foundation on the bigger things, you know, because a lot of times, a good rule I like to follow with budgeting is when you wake up, like for me, I write everything down that I plan to spend. When I wake up, I know the money I'm going to spend. Like today, I got to go get gas. So I'm going to spend, $16 on gas today, right? I drive a, pretty cheap car to maintain. So I know I'm going to spend 16 bucks. Okay, well, let's say I see this cool shirt online, right? I'm like, okay, well, it's 30 bucks. Sure, I can afford it. But I didn't plan to spend this money today. So a good rule I like to do is I call it the 1 week rule. Write it down, screenshot it, save it. A week from now, if you still want it and it makes sense, okay, write it down and part of your budget and then go buy it. But 9 times out of 10, if you wait that week, you're not gonna, spend that money. So that's when you're gonna like the discipline of like implementing that 1 week rule and not making those impulsive decisions of spending money will save you hundreds and thousands of dollars a year. A lot of times, like you see a cool pair of shoes or you see some bullshit toy online that just, seems cool or, and then you get it and everybody does it from when you're a kid to when you die, basically. You just buy this cool thing, you play with it once and never use it again. Well, imagine if you just never bought that. Like if you just said, well, I don't fucking need this. I'm only going to use it once, like a fidget spinner. I'm only going to use this thing once. It's pretty stupid, and save that 20 bucks. And another good thing you can try to implement too is, let's say you have this goal and at the end, like for me, at the end of my budget, whatever money I have left over, I transfer this account that's towards my goal. What you can do is, okay, let's say this thing you want to buy is $14, right? Instead of going to buy that $14 item, take that $14 and just transfer it right away to this bank account where your goal is. Go home, write $14 for me. I transfer it to Basque Bank. It's the banking I use for high yield savings, and write down $14 Basque. So instead of spending that $14 on a thing that will give you zero return other than immediate gratification, remember we always talk about delayed gratification. That's, waiting on things. Instead of getting that immediate gratification, you can transfer it to your goal and then just start forming that habit. If you have an issue of always spending the money and you can't really say no to things, or, the things that make you feel good right away, or you see everybody else going to get lunch or this new spot open, everybody at work's want to go try this new thing. In my eyes, I like bringing food to work because it's a lot cheaper, and why go spend 20 bucks on lunch every day when you could spend 20, 30 bucks and have lunch the entire week prepped for you and made for you, and 9 times out of 10 it's a lot healthier. So just being able to say no, and at the end of each week or each pay period, holding yourself accountable and going through each purchase you made and crossing it out if it was a bad one or if it was a good one, and then reviewing each purchase and kind of, check yourself. Because at the end of the day, nobody is going to care about your budgeting and the amount of money you make more than yourself. Just like nobody's going to care about the success of yourself more than yourself. So like if, I'll be honest, if everybody at work goes and spends money every day at lunch like they do, I could give two shits. If I were to go spend money on lunch every day, well, then that's an issue I got to deal with because that's my money I'm giving to somebody else. Another way to look at it, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I believe is the book that I read this in, is that you're going to be looking at your money and looking at it as each individual dollar is like a worker for you. So you kind of got to make it a game, essentially. So when, let's say you get $100, well, that's 100 workers for you. So every time you go to spend, 20 bucks, $8, $3 on a drink, 40 bucks on a new t-shirt or sweatshirt, you're giving X amount of workers away to somebody else that they're going to use. Versus if you just look at like your money as like a business and you want to acquire as many workers, $1 is one worker, you want to get as many workers as you possibly can, then you start making a game out of it where it's not like, oh, I can just go, spend 20 bucks. It ain't going to hurt me. I can afford it. I got, money in my bank account. it's never enough. You got to look at it as, especially starting out, you got to look at it as it's never enough. Obviously, you can get a little more relaxed when you can truly afford to relax a little bit. But starting out, you got to look at it as it's never enough. And then, like, okay, well, I just gave 20 workers away and I'll never get them back. And okay, maybe I got this one meal, I eat it in 10 minutes. Well, then my gratification is done. The food's gone. It's, I just spent 20 workers on it, and I'm back to square one, right? I'm gonna do it again tomorrow. That's bad habits versus if you were just be prepping your food or finding cheaper routes to go, whatever. So if you start looking at every single dollar as a worker for yourself, it's a lot easier way to create a game and start budgeting more effectively. Because if you don't keep track, and I know it sounds stupid, and I've yet to really find anybody else that does this, but if you keep track of every single dollar, you're gonna come out at the end of the year so many more workers with so much more money than if you just go aimlessly through the year and think that you're saving money or you're not spending money on stupid shit. And I tell you what, in sales, every day I see people spend money on their breakfast with DoorDash. DoorDashing, excuse my language, is fucking ridiculous. That people will pay people just to bring them food on top of already paying for the food. And then I see people leaving to go get lunch. So they're buying 2 meals. More than likely, they're not going to be cooking. So then they go buy a third meal. So they're buying 2 to 3 meals a day versus just meal prepping. Take 1 day a week. I take Sundays and I'll cook my food and it lasts me all week long. And it's super easy, time sensitive, saves you a lot of time and saves you money. So you just take that 1 week and then you times that by 52 weeks, you're going to be so much further ahead than you were at the start. And I know it seems tedious writing down, there's days where I don't want to come home and write down the money I spent because one, I already knew I was going to spend that money. Two, I'm just, it's 9:30 at night. I don't want to do it. So, okay, don't lay the receipt on the budgeting book or whatever you're going to do. And, after 3-4 days, you spend the money that you plan to spend, then go write down, update it, make sure everything's in line where you're supposed to do. I promise you, it'll be so much further ahead at the end of the year than when you started or if you just aimlessly went through it. And everybody, will say that, oh, well, I get my money and then it's gone the next day. I don't know where it goes because they're not keeping track of the subscriptions they're paying for every month or every week and the amount of food that they're buying. Food's the killer for people. One, it's super unhealthy for the food that most people consume on a daily basis. And then it makes you poor because you're out there spending food or spending money on shit you can't really necessarily afford, even though your bank account may have $50 in it still and the food only costs $10, right? And it's just keeping people broke, which I get it from a business standpoint. From whoever, is running these businesses. I mean, hell, I'd do the same thing, but for the consumer, it's not optimal for the consumer in the long run. So I just, it's a little cliche of writing your shit down. It's a little tedious. But if, just like your thoughts, if you write your thoughts down or type them on a computer and create a budget that way, it's a lot easier to make sure and hold yourself accountable. And then like the 1 week rule, if you want a new pair of shoes, write it down, write the cost down, screenshot it, save it, come back, think about it throughout the week, try the idea on. My mom always says that, just try the idea on, see how it fits for you. Try the idea on. A week from now, a month from now, if you still want it, maybe it's a little more of a need than just a want, then go buy it. I'm not saying go crazy with everything, but I promise you 90% of the purchases that you just wait a week, you'll end up not buying. You got to make a game out of it, and you got to take ownership of your spending habits. It's going to only help you out greatly. And then, let's just say, you want to start donating to a cause or helping people, buying other people food or stuff like that, but you don't feel like you have the money. Well, you start budgeting, you realize you're fucking spending too much money on stuff you don't need. Pull that back. You're spending $40-$50 a week on food for yourself. How about you save $20 and start donating to a cause that you want to do every week, once a month, giving money back to people instead of saying, oh, I don't have enough money because you keep spending money on food that gives you no return because there's nothing good coming out of it other than instant gratification, right? Giving money back to other people, one, is only going to attract more money to you, and two, is going to give you more gratification than long-term gratification than just sitting back and always consuming, you know, instant gratification stuff. That stuff that doesn't really matter for you. And what that's essentially going to do is creating a budget is going to teach you how to live under your means of income. So once you start building a little nest egg of money, and then you're going to sit at and look at it and be like, oh, well, $500 camera. Well, I can go to afford that, but maybe my camera right now already works. So then the second step of discipline is going to start going into when you can start affording more expensive stuff, but it's not necessarily a need, right? So you're going to start when you can start affording the big ticket items. You don't really need that stuff. So you got to really use that, a week, or maybe try it on for a month, see what that idea is like before you go spend that money, and really use that discipline and living under your means of income, right? That means, you make $600 every 2 weeks, or every week, and you spend $400 of it. That's living on your means. Well, just because you have that $200 of extra play money, well, that $100 pair of shoes, I got the money and I'm still under my budget, but I don't really need the pair of shoes. Every once in a while, sure, but don't get in the habit of just because you did really good and saved that little bit of money, right? You're just going to go throw it away. Save that money, put it in a different bank account, use it, be proactive with the money, be happy that the delayed gratification of you saving that extra $200, that feels good to put in that account. Be like, I won this week, instead of going to spend it on some stuff that doesn't really matter for you. That's a couple things checked off there. And another thing you can do is if you really struggle with having money in your account and holding on to it, I hear people say it all the time. It's just the discipline isn't been instilled yet and you aren't using it properly. Everybody can do it, but a lot of people don't ever use discipline. As I like to say, discipline is like a knife. If you aren't continuously sharpening it, it will go dull very quickly. So just have your checking account set up once you get paid. So you get paid $1,000 every 2 weeks. Have $200 right away go to a different account where you can't touch it. Then right from the get-go, you're already saving the money. And then maybe that $800 is for your bills and everything else. That's another way you can do it, where it kind of takes the control out of your hands of saying, well, I got this extra $200 here at the end of it. I'm feeling good. Let me go buy this. And then I'll put the rest of the money away. Right from the get-go, bam, you put it in this account, already done there, and then you really have to be disciplined on just spending money on what you're supposed to. That's a good way. That's a good way to kind of help your budgeting, create some discipline. A lot of people like doing that like I said, like to say that, oh, I don't do good when I see money in my account. It's just so easy to go spend it. That's a good way to get rid of those unplanned purchases and kind of set that discipline, start creating that discipline until you can manage having money in your account. I always find that quite stupid, but I guess I understand it, that when people see money in their account, they think they can go afford things, and it's not the case. You just gotta think of it as a big game, because I learned this a few years back, but I'm getting a little long on time here, but I learned this a few years back. When somebody gives you $1, it's not necessarily your dollar. It is just your time to hold that dollar. And the game is, with money, is how long can you hold on to that dollar until you have to give it to somebody else. Because just because you have $50,000 in your account, $10 in your account, $100 million in your account, it's just your time to hold that money for that time. How long can you hold on to that money before you have to give it away? So what the whole game is you want more money coming in and less money going out. It's just like a funnel. You want a really big top of money coming in and a super small bottom of money going out. So you want to continuously keep holding money and only giving out what you have to do. If you look at life that way and look at it as you want to collect as many workers as you can before you have to give that worker out to somebody else, look at it as a game, because that's all money is just a game. It's not the end goal. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's going to solve a lot of your problems, and it's going to give you the benefit to help other people create a world and experiences for your family. Get to buy some cool things, cool experiences, cool trips that if you didn't have that money, you couldn't afford. Outside of that, that's roughly all I have to go over with budgeting. Obviously, I'm very passionate about it. It is the starting block. Dave Ramsey talk about it all the time. It is a starting block to financial freedom. Is that you have to start small, start budgeting, start putting stuff away. And as you see that bank account grow, it's just addictive. It's like, okay, well, I'm actually starting doing stuff right now. And from when I was, 13, 14 years old to now I'm 23, almost 24, I've been budgeting. And I promise you, along with my peers, I'm a lot further ahead because of that one simple habit than if I weren't doing it. And it's a lot easier to say no. It's a lot easier to say no to these little purchases that everybody else likes to buy when you know in your head the plan you have set for this week. If you say, no, this isn't in my budget, I can't afford it, and no, obviously you can fucking afford it. You're going to be able to afford a lot more shit than everybody else will. But if you say in your head and say it, no, I can't afford that. I can't afford to go out to eat right now. Some people are going to look at you like, oh, I mean, like, you want me to go buy you lunch? Wait, no, it's not a big deal. I can't afford it. People start catching on that, all right, this motherfucker's got money, like he says he can't afford it, but that's just him because he knows that that's what his plan is. Just say, I can't afford it. I can't do it this week, maybe next week, because it's not a planned purchase. That's how you keep that discipline going. And you just make a joke about it. Oh, I can't afford it this week. I can't afford to go out to eat. People soon realize what you're kind of doing. Hopefully they tack on and you start using that discipline that you're using. They'll understand you can afford it, but it's more of a thing of just brushing off the instant gratification, pushing off, and then stick and plan with your budget. I promise you, it is going to just only help you in the long run. Outside of that, I'll end it with this. A goal without a plan is just a dream. So if you have a goal without a plan, it is just a dream. So if you have a goal, you have to set plan into action or it's never going to happen. A lot of people like to say, I want the Ferrari, I want the big house, I want to be in shape, I want to save money, I want, but there's zero plan behind it. It is just a dream. And dreams hardly ever come to truth or come alive without proper discipline, without proper effort. God will not reward you if you're not going to work hard towards what you want. He's only going to give it to you when you have worked hard enough and you deserve it and you can handle whatever it is you want. So I just ask you, start small, start budgeting. It is only going to help you in the long run. It's 23 minutes in, a little bit longer than I want to go, but everybody have a good rest of your day and adios.